Around here, I love a good corporate hustle story, which then pivots into a vastly different, more playful direction. Today, I'm chatting with Kristen Quattlebaum, and she is going to be sharing all of the not-so-subtle roadblocks that the universe was throwing at her, causing her to pause and recalculate her corporate trajectory. Kristen gets into the nitty-gritty, sharing what worked for her to find clarity in the chaos and what her life looks like today. And when you hear how Kristen questions societal norms, I think you'll know exactly why I knew she'd be a perfect fit to have on the show. The show where we talk about taboo topics like manifestation and money, and ultimately breaking the status quo to create a life you love.
Welcome to the Manifestation and Money podcast, where we bridge the worlds of the taboo topic of money with the woo-woo world of manifestation. We're your hosts, Chris and Jenny Schultz.
We're not just about dollars and cents around here. We're all about lifestyle design. You can be working towards financial independence while still living a life you love today.
Get ready for insightful conversations with guests who have embraced the FIRE movement by achieving financial independence and retiring early, as well as entrepreneurs and individuals who defied the norm and have paved their own way to a life they love.
Together, we'll explore the powerful connection between mindset, financial freedom, and living a purposeful life. And of course, we'll be sharing our own journey to how we carved our path to a seven-figure net worth before hitting the big 4-0. Are you ready to ignite your financial future? Then let's dive right in.
Welcome to the Manifestation and Money podcast, where your journey to financial independence and the life you love begins now.
Welcome to the Manifestation and Money podcast, Kristen.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm pumped to have you on the show today, and I would love for you to share with the guests who you are and what you do.
This is always such a fun question. So my name is Kristen Quattlebaum. I always let people know that I spent the first part of my life, 15 years in corporate. And there I was hustling to get to the top and trying to find my purpose and where I belonged in the world. And it's really what led me and began my journey through anxiety, which led me to therapy, which led me to meditation, which ultimately opened my intuitive gifts. And now I am a true seer and shadow alchemist. And I have been in my business world now for 5.5 years, which is a big deal in the small business world. And yeah, I travel for the last 4 years. I've been traveling with my almost 20-year-old kitty cat, Harley. And yeah, it's a little bit about my journey.
That's fun. So your kitty cat, you had said, so 4 years now you've been traveling. Are you traveling by ground or by airplane, or how are you guys getting around?
We drive wherever we go, all over the US into Canada.
Fun.
Yeah.
That is so cool. I love hearing stories like that, especially because in the business world and making money, the option of being able to do it from wherever you are, I think is such a intriguing pull for people who especially are stuck in that corporate world like you once were. I don't know if you were in like a cubicle without windows, you're in a box somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the idea of being able to go out and do something where you have the flexibility of location. Some people's lives, I bet, would be that much better just by being able to switch up their location throughout the year.
Mm-hmm.
Follow the
100%.
sunshine, those little things. Can you go a bit deeper into what your journey there was of you saying opening up? Like you were going through therapy and stuff, and then you said meditation opened you up. Can you kind of explain what that was like for you?
Mm-hmm. I first started meditating just to quiet my mind. In corporate, I was what I would call I had high functioning anxiety is what I would say. I was really good at being able to put my head down and get the work done and work well under pressure and stress. And what ultimately happened is all of that just pushing down of my emotions and just focusing on serving the company really just created a lot of anxiety in me. And so in therapy, I started unraveling my emotions that I had hid for so long. And then meditation, I started just to quiet my mind a little bit because I was still very in my head a lot. And the more I meditated, I always tell people about meditation because meditation really just allows you to create space between the mind and the body so that you can actually start to hear the body. And so that's really what opened my gifts. The more I meditated, the more space I created, the more I was able to just start hearing messages. And that's how it started. I started hearing messages, and then I started having visions. And because I was able to quiet my mind, I could tell the difference when those messages came in and how they landed with resonance, especially the visions. Like the visions are so obvious that it's intuition, but the messages sometimes, I think when people hear things, they often question, is this my mind or is this my intuition? And so for me, because of that meditation practice, it was a little easier to discern this is definitely my intuition coming in. And so then my journey was really just about honing that connection and really creating more space, right? I've been meditating now since 2017. And so just the more space you create, the more you open your heart, the more your gifts open. And it's just been such an incredible journey. I always tell people I'm like a baby intuitive, if you will. And I'm so powerful already. Like the messages that I get and the things that I see and what I'm able to help co-create for people in sessions is just really, really out of this world.
That sounds really neat because you're going from a place where your body was in high stress and anxiety. You're probably not even barely hearing your own thoughts in those moments. It's just task one, task two, showing up for somebody else, doing the job you're expected to do, doing all of the societal expectations that are plowed onto us. For you to say to pause, to get space between the mind and the body, I think that's a really powerful place. And especially for people that are listening who are trying to manifest more, you can't manifest from a place of chaos where you aren't even in tune with what you truly want, right?
Mm-hmm.
So meditation worked for you. If somebody's listening and they're like, I want to try to get more in line with my own intuition, what are some tools or things people can try to truly hear themselves?
Mm-hmm. Well, if meditation happens to work for you, I always recommend that. But what I would say to you in general, because a lot of people who are very in their heads will struggle a bit with meditation. And so, one thing that's really important to know is that meditation is not just about sitting in silence. The mind wanders, and congratulations, you're human, you have a brain, so it's going to wander, right? So you just acknowledge that and you come back to what you're doing, whether that's listening to a guided meditation, whether it's sitting in silence, whether it's out on a walk, whether it's doing the dishes, whether it's folding the laundry, driving a car, whatever you're doing, if you just mindfully bring your attention back to that space, and it's just training the mind. This is what I'm doing now. I'm actually focused on this, and I'm not letting my mind run what I'm doing. So that's the biggest thing, is the act of meditation is just that piece of bringing your attention back. That's meditation. And the more you do that, the more space opens up. So I think that it's just one of those things that it takes practice, right? And it takes time to do that. So wherever you feel in that space though, right? Where are the spaces that you lose track of time? When I was in corporate, I used to go spinning, and we were in a dark room and the music was pumping and I'm pedaling my heart out, and it was amazing. Like I could just let work go. Find those spaces that you can just disconnect from the world, because the more you disconnect, however you do that, the more you come back to who you really are.
And you're not saying disconnect by go Netflix,
No.
like you're like saying disconnect from everything going on around you and just sit with yourself. Is that what you're saying?
Unplug.
Unplug.
My business is called KQ Unplugged.
Okay.
As an ode to MTV back in the 90s, but really it is about unplugging.
Unplugging. Okay. I like that. I resonate with that. And for you, I know you also work with an element of human design. And I'm really curious because I see that word popping up all over now. What is human design? Can you please enlighten me?
So human design is based on your birth info. If you ever had a birth chart reading done, you need your birth date, time, and location. And yes, the time is important. I get that question all the time. When you run that, what it does is human design combines astrology, the chakra system, I Ching, and Kabbalah. And it spits out this, what's called a body graph. And what it really does is it shows you what your energy type is. How does your aura interact with the world? And then where you're defined in your body graph, like where your chakras are defined, it shows you where you have access to consistent energy and where you take in energy and amplify that from others around you. So it really is designed to help you understand how your energy interacts with the world and how you can make decisions with just more ease and grace, right? So there's only 4 energy types in the world, and 70% of the population are generators because they have their sacral defined. They have this big energy center, the sacral, that gives them the energy to build and create things in the world. I'm a projector, and we're 20% of the world. And finding out I'm a projector in a corporate world, because that's when I found out about it, was very, very powerful for me, because projectors have penetrating energy and it has to be invited in. So when I saw things like so deeply and I would try to express them in meetings and stuff, sometimes it wasn't received. And then it created a lot of bitterness in me because they weren't ready to hear what I had to say. And then I felt unseen all the time. So understanding that about my energy was very, very powerful for me. That's just a teeny little bit of it, but it's a very in-depth rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And it's powerful. It's really powerful to understand.
Neat. Like, I'm just flashing back personally to when I did a personality test years ago, and my personality, I can't remember exactly what column I fell in, but one of the characteristics of it was not that I'm impatient, I really like easy flow of point A to B. Like, don't waste time. If we're going to go do this thing, let's just go do the thing. We're not going to beat around in the bush. Or if somebody's telling a story and they get stuck and they're like, was it Mary that did that thing or Sue? Maybe, no, I don't even think it. Maybe what, like all of the details that don't matter. I'm like, just get to the point of the story, right? But once I learned about that about myself, I was like, okay, now when I'm in those situations, I can sit back and be like, this is a me thing where I'm feeling discomfort here. Just let the other person say their thing or do their thing. This is me. And by knowing that about myself, I'm able to navigate life easier without taking things personally or wondering why they're grinding on me. So I can see this kind of thing by knowing what your energy type is. You have a similar awareness of how you're going out there and reacting in the world and how people are reacting to you. That could be really, really powerful.
It really is. And there's so many nuances of the chart. There are personality profiles and the way you make decisions. And it's really, really powerful, especially when you get into partnership dynamics. If you're in a partnership with someone and you can look at the 2 charts together and see basically wherever you're different or where there's potential opportunity to clash.
Yep.
And so understanding that about each other is really powerful.
And is that something that you do working with people? Do you take them through that?
So I do offer human design readings, and so projector style. I'm not formally trained in it, but I'm a 1-3. So the 1 is like the researcher investigator. I'm like a sponge, and I have this ability to basically take in information from a lot of sources and synthesize it in a way that makes sense for people. So using that in my projectorness, I read charts and my intuition as well. And then I incorporate it into my coaching as well.
Neat. So many different tools. The more guests I have on here, the more I'm like, I don't know if it's just we're not aware of the energetic or external pieces of life that are playing around us, that we're just so taught. Our little human experience is black and white, if you will, and we're just doing the things and not, so many of us, not paying attention to these other things that play into our life here.
Yeah.
It's kind of
100%.
We all have access to intuition. What do you think from an intuition standpoint is blocking a lot of people from accessing their intuition?
And the biggest thing is how plugged into other people's energy that they are and not recognizing it. And on top of that, so it's not just about who are you working with or who are you in a relationship with or who are you friends with, who are you hanging out with? It's more than that. Right now, we live in such an intense world. Everything that's happening right now, it just keeps getting more and more intense. And I've been having this conversation a lot lately that there aren't these ebbs and flows anymore, right? It's not like, oh, the energy is really intense right now. What's going on with the planets? And we used to be able to come back down from that. And now it just feels like it's ratcheting and ratcheting. And so it's becoming more and more important for us to really be in tune with our own energy, unplug from everyone else around us, protect our energy, and really honor it, honor who we are in the world, because the more lost we get in the matrix, the less we are here serving what we're meant to be doing here. We're not all meant to be here lost in the energy of society and everyone around us. We're not here to just conform into that energy. We're here to really come into that true expression of ourselves and hone the gifts that we're here to express.
Mm-hmm. That is one of my favorite pieces of life. When you see that person who is saying, screw what everybody thought I should be doing. Here's the thing I know I should be doing, and I'm going to go for it. So working with your clients, what are some things that you do with them to help them link into that truer version of themselves?
With coaching, it's funny because it's really the first basis of it all is really about questioning everything. Everything that you think you should be doing, have to be doing. What are you forcing yourself to do that you don't really want to do? What are you doing blindly because it's just what you've always done? Can you step back and question all those things and say, why am I still not happy? Why am I still not fulfilled here? When we start to actually question that or say, you know what, actually, I know my whole family wants me to do that, but I don't want to do that. And I'm going to say no. And to start rubbing up against the norm and the pressures and all of that, that takes courage, first of all. And then the other piece of it is really, it's about lifing. It's about just building that awareness of how am I responding? How am I reacting to life? Is this who I want to be? And in that questioning process, that shadow alchemy is what I call it, right? Facing your shadows, facing the things that you don't love about your life and leaning into them, right? Why am I afraid to do this? Why am I holding myself back? Being in that space, being in the void, in the discomfort of it all, it takes time to be there so that you can get on the other side and see this is actually who I am. And I know that. And the more you ground into that, the more you show up in that space and the more you actually inspire and light other people up to do the same. Like you said, like when people start rubbing up against the norm, it can trigger the fuck out of people. It can really trigger them and also magnetize them at the same time. They'll be like, I don't love that she says this or whatever, but I'm so intrigued by her. And I want to be able to do more of that. I want to be able to express what I want to express and say those things with courage. It's an unraveling process that I think so many people are afraid to go through. And the reality is, and I would say to you, if you're listening to this, if you feel inspired or you feel that nudge when you're listening to Jen's podcast, from any of the guests on here, if something in you lights up, it's something in you awakening. And that's your sign to follow that. And it doesn't happen for everyone in the world. There are some people that will just go through the motions of life and not ever question it. And that's okay because that's their journey here in this life. But for the ones who it is, we're the ones that are meant to be planting this energy in the world so that other people can start to be inspired to wake up too.
I totally agree with that. It's like a beautiful ripple effect for those who want it. I am a shy introvert who now has a podcast because I feel like I have things that I want to say and conversations that I need to have with people, which are completely enlightening me to new things. Like I love manifestation. I love money, but I am learning that there is so much more energetic and bigger pieces at play here that are actually playing into my life that I am fascinated by it. And those little sparks, when somebody else sees you light up, yeah, like you said, they can take it or leave it, but you might spark the next person to be like, well, that's a really interesting theory, cause them to question their belief or cause them to do their own research on the thing and cause their own little ripple effect within themselves of unraveling. And I think shadow work in there is extremely important. If the person watching you has a problem with you on your journey, what truly is it that they need to dig into in themselves? Why is it affecting them so bad to see you doing your own thing, right? So many powerful things in there. And the questions that you posed at the beginning of that thought, I think anybody could take those and sit down and journal and figure out like, why am I feeling this ick? Where is the resistance in my life? And come away with some powerful ahas.
Mhm.
So that was all really cool stuff you just shared. I would love for you to share something like your most favorite part of working with clients, your most favorite process that you do with people.
It's definitely the intuitive work. Well, I do love the intuitive work. The intuitive work is surprising to me all the time. So when I was in corporate, I worked in the project space. And so there was always change and new things happening, right? And so in the intuitive world, when I do readings, I never know what's going to happen. I mean, I've experienced mediumship, I've experienced DNA healing, past life regression, like just so many different things. And it's incredible. I've gotten messages from society where I know this is a collective message. I've understood things like bullying and autism, and these messages come to me that are just so incredible. And like I said earlier, they land with such resonance. I don't need to go Google them or find them in a book somewhere to believe them. That's what's really cool. And basically, I get paid to experience healing and to facilitate healing for other people, right? It benefits me just as much to facilitate that because it lands in the energy of both of us while I'm doing it. It's so incredible. And it never ceases to amaze me, the things that happen when I do circles. Sometimes I'll do like mini readings for each person in the circle and the things that come up. And it's the themes you'll see in a space of strangers that come together is really, really amazing. And I get to smile each time and say, this is what I'm here to do. I'm in alignment. This is my purpose. And it's for someone who sought that for so long in corporate, it's really powerful for me to feel that, to have that self-validation all the time. And also just to see people find their own expression and their own gifts in the world. That's really cool as well. Knowing that they're out there expressing who the fuck they are, you know? That's cool.
Yeah. And the more that people are stepping up doing that, the more people that will, I think.
Mhm.
So, what is your biggest piece of advice for other people who are trying to carve their own path?
Hmm. I mean, I said it earlier, and that if you have the nudge, follow it. It's your right, it's your responsibility to follow it because you're getting the call. And anything that you're doing to ignore it, and you're afraid of it, whatever that is, I encourage you to face that. And something that I do all the time, because sometimes I have those temper tantrums too, where I'm holding myself back and I'm not doing the thing that I know I want to do. But once I realized that I always do the thing I'm afraid of, I started facing it sooner and sooner, right? How long am I going to suffer in the fear before I just do the thing?
Mm-hmm.
And so one thing that I like to do and practice that I have is what am I afraid of? And I just write them all down. And then I tap into my intuition and I ask, what is the truth about this fear? And it just immediately alchemizes them, just puts you on a totally different frequency. And then you can move forward. I'll share really quickly. One of my mentors in corporate, when I was struggling in corporate, she drew the bell curve on a napkin for me. We all know the bell curve from statistics class, right? And she told me that I was an extreme outlier. And then she drew all these arrows into the center of the bell. And she said, your whole life, you're going to feel pressure to come back to the norm. So we all feel that. And so we are right now, we are an outlier, right? The disruptors, the rebels, the people who are choosing to rub against the norm, we are the outliers. And so we're constantly going to have to pull ourselves out of the norm. That's our right to do that.
I love that. That is such a great note to end it on today. But before we go, I think you're a truly fascinating human. So please share with the listeners where people can reach out and catch more of you.
Yeah, so my website is kqunplugged.co. You can find all the links there, really. I'm on YouTube. I have a podcast. I am on Instagram. And I think we're going to link a freebie in the notes here called It's My Wealth and Happiness Codes class. And it's essentially 3 codes that I've learned along my way about finding purpose, tapping into the spirit of who you are, and then your unique expression in the world and what it means to unravel all of those things. So it's worth checking out.
Definitely. I will link it in the show notes for easy access for everyone. And thank you so much for joining me on the show today, Kristen.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you for listening to the Manifestation and Money podcast. If you're looking for ways to manifest more money and more abundance in your life, I invite you to join me in the Manifest More Moolah program. It would be you, me, and a small group of other equally cool humans meeting weekly in a Zoom room, exploring different ways to manifest more money and more abundance into your life. For more details, visit www.manifestationandmoney.com. Thank you for listening to the Manifestation of Money podcast. I truly, truly appreciate all of you for listening. Cheers to creating a life you love and the income streams to support it.